they assume mutations will make something new and better. That's never been observed. Secondly, they assume natural selection makes it survive. See, in order for evolution to work, one animal has to evolve a little better than the rest. Now, what must happen to the rest of them to make this work? They got to die. Evolution's a religion of death, not a religion of life. According to evolution, death brought man into the world. According to the Bible, man brought death into the world. Totally opposite. Somebody's wrong, folks. Seriously wrong. This textbook talks about mutations, and it says mutations are the original source of variation in populations. I agree. Probably all the roses in the world today had a common ancestor. Rose. Mutations do not produce evolution. Nearly all scientists agree with that. They just simply don't produce evolution. Here's a mutated bull. It's got 5 legs. There's no new information added. Here's a short-legged sheep. That's a mutant. No new information is added. He lost some information. And he's the first one the wolf is going to catch. Here's a 2-headed turtle. That's mutant. It's not ninja, but it's mutant, okay? Now, he's going to freeze first winter. Nobody makes a double-neck turtleneck sweater. They don't. Okay. Scrambling up letters from the word Christmas will get you all sorts of different words, but you will never get Xerox out of Christmas. The letters aren't available. And scrambling up an existing gene code, which is what a mutation does not give you some new, improved information. It doesn't do it. This textbook shows the kids a 4-winged fly, and it says normal fruit flies have 2 wings. This mutant has 4, and by the way, it cannot fly. It says this rare mutation, like most mutations, is harmful. Now watch this. Beneficial mutations are the raw material for natural selection. Well, excuse me, why didn't they show us a beneficial mutation? Why did they show us a bad one and tell us about the good ones? Show me a good one. There's never been one. One professor said, oh, there's a good mutation. People in Africa that get sickle cell anemia cannot get malaria. I said, well, that's brilliant, sir. That's like saying if you cut off your legs, you can't get athlete's foot, you know? That's just brilliant. They tell the kids evolution and natural selection go together. This one says evolution, natural selection causes evolution. Oh, come on. Natural selection selects. It doesn't create anything. Here's the world's smallest horse. Pretty tiny, useless, doesn't bark. I mean, what good is it, you know? Natural selection does not create. How people got this crazy idea that natural selection is a creative force, I don't know, but it's not. It doesn't create a thing. It just simply selects. It's a quality control. And if we had time, we'd get into a lot more of that. Quality control does not change the car to an airplane if you select all the bad cars. Okay? Everything in nature was designed. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry, but there is a designer, and we're going to all stand before him one of these days. Maybe pretty soon. Thank you so much.
Before I turn to genetics, I want to make a few comments on what we've just heard here and the level of honesty of the person making these comments. Because this is someone who feels free to call other people liars and to use the word lie about a whole set of people and a whole set of activities. Yet he has some vulnerability on exactly that subject. Let's just deal with trivia first of all. Symbiosis requires simultaneous creation. That's nonsense. We have many numerous studies of symbioses beginning and in some cases symbioses breaking down, and you don't have to imagine simultaneously everything's in place in order to get it to evolve. That's an elementary error that's been around in some forms for over 100 years. He claims that evolutionary theory is not science, but is religion, because science, he says, is derived from observation and study, and since you can't actually observe a fossil change into a different fossil, then therefore your discussions on what you assume happened is religious. That's nonsense again. There are all kinds of observations you make and studies you make that lead to inferences and conclusions from which you can derive a given result. So that's fatuous, that we're talking about opposing religious schools. Now, regarding his infatuation with the term liar, I urge on you two websites that you can go to if you want a deeper knowledge of this. One is www.talkorigins.org, and that'll deal with very detailed refutations of the bizarre story he's peddling about how this universe came about. There is one that may appeal to some of you in this audience even more. It's called AnswersInGenesis.org. It is an explicitly Christian website, but it has a subsection called Arguments Creationists Should Not Use, and this is devoted to arguments that this character has used in the past, and that are recognized as being dishonest in content and almost certainly dishonest in intent, including various kinds of lies he's told about Darwin's deathbed conversion, about Thomas Henry Huxley talking about free sex, a basking shark found off of Japan really being a plesiosaur, and so forth and so on. I don't have the time to deal with this kind of trivia, but I urge you, if you've got an interest in a slightly more mature Christian creationist approach, to check Answers in Genesis, or if you're interested in the evidence more broadly, to check talkorigins.org. All evidence has been proven fraudulent. Everything has been disproven. Nonsense. This is spontaneous generation, he claims. Again, nonsense. Spontaneous generation was a notion that you could get a frog appearing out of nowhere. Mutations never make things better. Now that's a lie. We have many examples of mutations that are beneficial, including, for that matter, the mutation that in heterozygous form, that's where you have one of them and you don't have the other, provides you with protection from malaria. A mutation that is disproportionately present in African American people, derived from an area that was high in malaria. And then he repeats an old canard: natural selection does not create, it only destroys, it only selects. Natural selection is a continual selective process, but it moves the frequency distribution of genes beyond the distribution that existed when it started, and it can create brand new creations relatively quickly that have never existed before. It's elementary. Now let me go back to talking about genetics for a second, because this is a second kind of another kind of problem you get into when you just invent something out of whole cloth and imagine that it's going to fly. If you've got an ark full of 2 of each kind and only maybe 10 human beings, we know for sure they're going to have to practice inbreeding for a number of generations. Because you only got 2 individuals, let's hope it's male and female, the offspring have got to breed among themselves, the grandchildren have got to breed among themselves, the great-grand offspring have got to breed among themselves, because there ain't any other individuals around. We know, and it's an elementary calculation, that it takes about 7 generations to wipe out all genetic variability. Now, this level of inbreeding imposed on all organisms has destroyed, it's destructive in the way he moans and groans about natural selection. It destroys genetic